trapped in a rusted ship for 2,000 years, her body rotting, until the derelict ship floated in the darkness. Its once polished hull now scarred with rust, corrosion, and the pockmarks of countless micrometeorite impacts. It had been forgotten, drifting silently on the edge of a dying star system. All records of its journey had long since vanished into dust, its name unreadable on the plating that clung barely to its surface. Inside its cold chambers, time had gnawed away at everything. Metal warped, glass cracked, wires tangled into webs of decay. But within the ship's cryogenic chamber, there was still movement. The pod was shattered. Life support had failed nearly 2 millennia ago. What remained inside was not the preserved beauty of the woman, who had once lain down with hope of awakening to a new frontier, but something far more grotesque. Her flesh had sloughed away, organs shriveled, bone visible beneath torn fragments of a uniform. Her hair, brittle and faded, clung to a scalp mottled with dried tissue. She should have been utterly gone. Yet something pulsed faintly within her chest cavity, a flicker of blue light, weak but persistent, embedded where a human heart once beat. It had been there when she first entered the pod. A gift, she was told. A failsafe. A device of alien origin meant to tether her life, to preserve her mind, even if her body failed. For 2,000 years, it had kept her consciousness awake in intervals. She would fade into darkness for centuries at a time, only to awaken for moments, trapped in the husk of her body, aware of nothing but silence and endless rot. Her name had once been Captain Lyra Kale of the Terran Expansion Fleet. Now she was something else. Something half dead, half machine, lingering on the razor's edge of existence. And then something touched the ship. The beginning, the awakening. Lyra's mind stirred before her eyes opened. The sensation was alien, vibration. For ages, there had been no movement, no sound. Now, something resonated through the metal walls. A docking clamp. Through the corroded viewport of the cryo chamber, she saw light spill into the darkness. Not the distant glow of a star, but artificial light. A salvage crew. Her throat had long since decayed into ruin, incapable of speech. But the blue shard in her chest stirred, translating thought into faint electrical activity. Sensors in the pod flickered back to life for the first time in eons. Life form detected. The ancient systems croaked. The salvagers froze. 3 of them entered the chamber. Humanoid, but not entirely human. Their forms were slender, chitinous plates covering their skin, mandibles twitching with unease as they regarded the corpse in the broken pod. "She's been dead for millennia," one said in a strange, chirping language. And then Lyra moved. Her hand, black in bone and remnants of sinew, twitched against the glass. Her head turned slowly, one eye socket hollow, the other glowing faintly with the blue light that pulsed in her chest. The aliens recoiled. One drew a weapon. "Wait!" Another hissed. "She is not dead. Not dead." The words reverberated in Lyra's mind like a cruel joke. She tried to speak, but only a guttural rasp came from her ruined throat. "Take her," the leader commanded. "The emissary will want to see this." For the first time in 2,000 years, Lyra felt her body lifted from the pod, her decayed form carried through corridors she no longer recognized. She was taken aboard the salvager's vessel, where cleaner air hit what remained of her lungs, searing them with pain and memory. The resurgence. They brought her to a world of steel towers and endless smog, a planet Lyra did not know. Empires had risen and fallen, while she drifted in her rusting tomb. Humanity's banner, once carried proudly across the stars, was nowhere to be seen. She was presented before the emissary of Karzal, a towering alien robed in flowing metallic fabrics. His eyes were like molten gold, his voice deep and resonant. "This relic," he said, examining her as though she were both specimen and treasure. "You are Terran." The name struck her like lightning. Terran, her people. The shard in her chest hummed faintly, translating her thoughts into broken words projected through a nearby console. "Yes, Terran, Lyra, Kale." The emissary tilted his head, mandibles curling into something like fascination. Impossible. The Terrans vanished from the galactic stage over 1,000 years ago. Your people are myths now, ghosts, and yet you live bound to this device. He gestured to the glowing shard embedded in her chest. Lyra remembered the day she was given it. The artifact had been discovered on a distant moon, pulsing with power even the brightest Terran scientists could not fully understand. They called it Eternity Core, rumored to be left behind by a civilization so advanced they had ascended beyond mortality. It had been entrusted to her ship's mission, perhaps as protection, perhaps as experiment. Now she realized the truth. It had cursed her to linger, neither living nor dead. The emissary smiled with cruel delight. You'll be studied. You are proof of the old age. With you, we may unlock secrets lost to time. But Lyra's rotting heart still carried a soldier's will. She had not endured 2,000 years of torment just to become another specimen in a laboratory. That night, as she lay in containment, she reached inward toward the shard. It pulsed, responding to her thoughts. Energy coursed through her ruined body, knitting fragments of tissue, reinforcing bone with strands of luminous matter. She felt strength return to her limbs, not the strength of flesh, but something beyond. By the next sunrise, she was able to stand. The Middle Rising, the rebellion. The emissary scientists surrounded her, probing, scanning, dissecting the energy she radiated. They whispered of immortality, of power eternal. But Lyra's mind was focused on survival. She listened, she learned. She discovered that the Karzal Dominion ruled vast regions of space with an iron grip, their history rewritten to erase any mention of humanity. To them, Terrans were myths, creatures from folklore who had burned bright and vanished. The more she healed through the shard, the more memories surged back. Her crew, her mission, the attack that had crippled her ship, leaving her adrift. She remembered swearing that she would see humanity's dream live on. And so, when the moment came, she acted. During a transfer between laboratories, she unleashed the shard's power fully. A wave of blue energy rippled outward, frying circuits, toppling guards. Her skeletal frame burned with radiant light as she tore free from her captors, moving with speed no corpse should possess. The emissary confronted her in fury, his voice booming. You are nothing but a corpse clinging to stolen power. Lyra's response was a whisper of thought, amplified by the shard. Then fear the corpse who remembers. They fought in the great hall of the Dominion Palace, alien soldiers swarming while she wielded the shard like a weapon, tendrils of energy lashing out, disintegrating armor, hurling bodies aside. The emissary struck her down with his staff, impaling her already broken body, but the shard flared brighter, burning him with raw force. He screamed, collapsing into ash. For the first time in centuries, silence followed. Not the silence of space, but the silence of a toppled tyrant. The ending, the legacy. Lyra staggered through the city streets, her form half regenerated, half decayed. The people, slaves and citizens alike, watched in awe as the emissary's palace burned. Whispers spread, the Terran lives. But she knew her body was failing. Even with the shard, decay could not be fully undone. She was a revenant, a reminder of what once was, not what could be forever. At the heart of the palace, she found the Dominion's archives. Within them, fragments of history confirmed her worst fears. Humanity's colonies scattered, conquered, or assimilated. Terrans had become little more than footnotes in alien records. She placed her hand on the archive terminal, letting the shard interface. Images, knowledge, the story of her people, all of it surged into the device. For the first time in 1,000 years, the truth of humanity's legacy spread across the stars once more. Her final act was not vengeance, but remembrance. As her body crumbled to dust, the shard pulsed one last time, releasing its energy into skies. Across the Dominion's communication networks, the message carried. The tale of Terra, of explorers and dreamers, of a people who had once dared to touch the stars. And among those who heard, sparks of rebellion ignited. The Terrans were gone, but their story would live, inspiring those who remained in chains to rise. The shard, now dim, lay in the ashes of Lyra's remains, until a child of the Dominion picked it up, eyes wide with wonder, and the cycle began again.